shine, rise and shine. We got something for your body, soul, and mind. Right here on the Remix Morning Show. That's right, Black Power Media. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and let me introduce you to your host. We got none other than Dr. Jared Ball, Kamal, K. Frank, and Jackie Lukeman.
What's up, good people?
On, people?
You didn't say you were the ear doctor.
I did?
No.
No, I don't think you did.
You got the
ear doctor.
Yeah, there you
go.
There you go.
You got the fly, Jimi Hendrix.
I know.
Yeah. What's up, May, in the background? I thought he said it first too, but that's all right.
I did too.
Oh.
Greetings, everybody, all the people coming in, all the remixers live and direct, and all those who will see and hear this later. Good morning to all of you.
The first comment in the morning, I'm here interrupting the light brigade. The light skin brigade.
Really?
I am proud to do my part for the revolution. I am proud.
Speaking of, big up to Teresa.
Right on. Welcome.
All right. Welcome.
You get a BPM cup salute.
Mm-hmm. Wait, how come I don't have a? Where's my cup?
Oh,
you got to order that.
You got to order that joint. We all got to work for it. I had to order it just like everybody else.
I just ordered mine yesterday. No freebies for me. And if anybody deserves one, I do. You know what I mean?
Oh,
same
really?
thing with my shirt.
Is that what we think? Is that how we're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking. I think. If anybody deserves free merchandise.
Okay, all right.
I took us from the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Oh wow!
All right. Okay.
Hey Jackie, order one. I got
you. You got her.
That's right. You heard it. You heard
what,
it.
doctor?
Somebody is looking out for me on this show. Somebody is.
Jackie, I always got you. You know that, girl.
Hey, you know what, Jackie? Get you a shirt too.
Thank you, Ear Doctor. Thank you. Bro. Thanks.
It's on B.
No thanks to some people.
It's on B.
This is just a mess. Well, I just wanted to share real quick with everybody that today I feel like this because it's the last day of classes. And I get to see a lot of students who show up like this. Because all semester they've been like this, and now their grades look like this.
Do they come with stories to you? Do they come with stories about like, Professor Ball?
And people don't even know how much effort I put in all semester long to try to avoid this. There's so many so much endeavor, so much effort put into protecting against this, but every semester it's almost unavoidable.
Hey Jared, they come in and be like, please.
That's it. And it's everything. And it's like, I haven't seen or heard from you in how long, and I got this excuse and that excuse, And I'm like, hey, it's all good. We in a post-pandemic world. Yeah, I'm real easy, man. I'm real easy.
What does that mean? Grade-wise, it's all good.
Post-pandemic business.
I give everybody every opportunity to make up missing work, so that they get up to the last minute, and because I'm the no drama professor.
Do they at least come with some good bribes or something?
Nah, man. No, it's just a lot of you had it right. It's a lot of begging and a lot of, I'm just struggling and life is hard and
a lot of sickness.
I'm a sucker for that. I'm a soft.
A lot of sickness in the families.
A lot of sicknesses.
My grandma got sick and I had to take care of her. Then my other grandma got sick and I had to take care of her.
I'll be real. I've killed off a grandmother like 9 times in my life.
Oh wow.
For various reasons. Just saying.
And I tell them, like, I don't want, people, they want to send death notices and all this. And my thing has always been, if you are claiming a death to get out of a grade, you got it. Because I like, you've gone to the most, even as an atheist, I'm like, if you tempting all the fates at once, I'm like, go ahead and mess with that. I'm like, you got that. Like, if it's that serious that you got to Kamau off your grandmother over and over,
relatives.
take the grade, you know what I mean?
He died in 1967, the year of my birth. People don't got to know that.
Resurrected her and killed her off 5 times.
And then she died again in
at least 9 times I've killed her off.
and in the spring of 1998, she died again.
Particularly for Spanish class back in the day in college. She died like 3 times in like 2 years. That was a rough period for me.
Yeah, well. But anyway, this is it. Today's the last day. Semesters, the classes are over. It's a beautiful day. You hear the birds. Everything's a little more sunny.
Coffee tastes a little better.
Listen,
coffee tastes a little better.
I had a pizza place my senior year, so I was able to bring my teachers food. So graduated with I made it out. Robbery at its best.
You had the pizza spot. Wait a minute. You had the pizza spot while you was in college?
Yeah, senior year I opened up a pizza spot.
Damn.
Oh wow.
My man was an entrepreneur. I'm gonna give him his dad. He was an entrepreneur.
Hey man, had to get it. Capitalism. Nah, I'm just playing.
I know. You guys sell that pizza and whatever else was in the crust.
Pizza for grades and whatever else you slid into the.
I think there was a lot being sold in that pizza spot.
Probably. I think. Maybe.
That's the stories I heard.
Yeah, nah. Anyway, Jackie, are we going to get some more preview of your Cuba discussion this morning?
We can, if you like. If I can keep this coughing under control, sure.
And I know we have some stories that we didn't get to from the rest of the week, and some other stuff. And then shout out to Erica, to Ricky Ryan in the chat streets, updating me on the Bitcoin crash effect on El Salvador, as we could have predicted. So we might get into some of that later this morning as well. Yeah. I mean, it's wild out here. And then there's so much effort at so this is why. So I did double back yesterday and I saw some of the criticism that I got. Shout out to Emma for bringing up either crypto or TV shows. And, but this is again, for me, this is the overlap of both my personal interests and my professional work. Pop culture, media, propaganda, Africana studies, and its particular effect on the economy and how the economy is discussed narratively in relationship to Black people. That's my, so I feel like, some of this has to be done. You know what I mean? Some of this has to, some of this work has to happen.
You got some criticism for that?
Yeah. She would say, I just saw Emma saying that I had to be something like banned or barred from doing that. In future,
from talking about TV shows and crypto.
Yeah. No more TV and no more. Because I think yesterday we went a little long on We Own This City.
I just thought it was wild that we had a whole conversation about a television show that I literally had never heard of. And only, I think it's only because my own TV viewing habits have changed so much that I just really don't watch. I don't watch cop shows anymore. I used to be hard on Law and Order. I used to love that joint, and then I realized, cops aren't this nice. They're not this nice, and they're not this good at solving crime. They don't really do. Yeah, this is not.
They take a lot of reports. That's for goddamn sure.
Yeah, a lot of notes. A lot of notes. That
I just always doubted the arguments in the DA's office about keeping the police under control and staying within the rights, the laws. They would have those because I used to watch Law and Order all the time, and when you know the DA, the ADA would go to the DA and they would have that office in the second half of the show, that initial discussion, and they'd be like, oh, but we have to make sure the rights are protected. You're doing too much. In other words, like, oh, and I was like, come on, man. That was the one that always broke me out of the fantasy.
Like,
what's really going on is they got like a board of random people's faces, and they just throwing a dart.
Get him! So I will say this: in We Own This City, there is a scene that I thought was very true. I had to get him credit on that, where they bring in the main thug cop. His seniors bring him into the office, and they start to go at him like, "You got another complaint, and this is the kind of stuff that'll get you fired, and you can't be treating people like this." And he's like, "Oh, what?" And then they're like, just playing with you, man. We got your back. You know what I mean? You keep performing like this, we got you covered. You know what I mean? Keep doing your thing, son. And they were like high-fiving each other. I was like,
and then they gave him the report, the police report, to do over again. It's like, nah, this is how you write it.
Right.
Always put how your life was in danger. And it's like, every report I've ever read, when I was practicing law, always let off with how the cop was in danger. So that is not a goddamn lie. That is very true. They were like, we know how to craft a narrative.
Yeah. They got that. They give him, I have to give him credit for that one. And D. Watkins wrote that scene apparently too. That's because he wrote that episode. So shout out to him. He got that one right. You know, I was like, yeah. But anyway, I remember the first. By the way, I used to watch Law and Order 2, and one of the first assistant DAs left the show in real life because he thought the show was too liberal, and he quit acting and went back to Canada. In fact, left the whole country.
Damn.
Was that Sam Waterston or
no before him? So like you got to go back to the very beginning of the show, and it's the first one. He's a white dude with bald, and but he left the show in real life. He said this show was too liberal. And I was like, damn. And quit. He was like,
going to jail.
He was like, I'm going to Canada. At least we got health care. You know what I mean?
I didn't watch that show a lot, but every time I watched it, there was somebody who was guilty of something at the end of the show. It felt like, I don't think I ever seen an acquittal on that show.
No. And the cops were always justified, and the prosecutors were always just. You know what I mean? It was always, everything was, and wrapped up nice in an hour.
Yeah. The cops always really cared about the victim. Man, please. Especially Special Victims Unit. Oh my God. That was just such a violation of your synapses. It was so disingenuous. Those people do not care about rape victims and child. Oh my God, it was just so terrible. But I mean, I was all into it. CSI, because I like true crime. So I mean, I'm all into ID Network and Women Who Kill and all this kind of foolishness, because I like to see that there really is something wrong with certain people on this planet. I don't care what anybody.
I will admit now, I watch a lot of on like Netflix when they do the whole. Some murderer from the past. They do the whole story or whatever. Like those always grab. I try not to be grabbed by them, but they always. What's the one that Just Like a Clown? Was
John Wayne Gacy? John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, I did this one on him. And I never paid too much attention to who he was or whatever. When I saw the series on Netflix, I was like, click.
But what's interesting about that, and I know we got the ear doctor coming up, but real quick, what's interesting about that, because I watched that one, I watched one recently about Ted Bundy, and there was another one that I'm thinking of too, and the theme for me was that all of these killers were well ensconced members of white society.
Yes, they were.
And they were deeply engaged in the mainstream political apparatus. Ted Bundy was in the Republican Party. Gacy was a deep Democratic political operative in Chicago, well known to everybody. So I was like, this is perfect. They are one extreme at one end of the political system, where the other, just does the same thing more broadly speaking. They just kill more people on a regular basis, on a serial basis around the world. So and it was
that's true.
I thought that was deep. But anyway, I watch all that stuff too. But the other thing I know we got to keep up with, like he does, and that's why he's back in the barbershop or the beauty salon,
Again, what he's selling some more pizza.
Here to the streets.
Hey, Jackie,
huh?
who's this? Miami CSI. Somebody's going to jail.
I hate that dude.
Horatio, that was.
I hated that dude. I hated that dude so much. I could not ever watch Miami CSI because of that. I couldn't stand that. I don't know what it was about him. I hated that dude.
Hey, the show I hated the most though was New York Undercover, because that was show got everybody was like, that was like the hot show for a while. And everybody thought this was like the hip hop cop show. And it was like, you gotta watch that. I was like, it's still the cops.
Hey,
that's cool.
You know what my favorite cop show is right now? Billions. I am not gonna front. I root for the criminals all day.
You said Billions?
Yes.
It's not a cop show. It's a capitalism show.
Well,
I watched that show.
But they continually trying to lock up old boy. The DA,
like the Security and Exchange.
Well, that's how you know it's not a cop show, because he don't get locked up. If it's a cop show, that
they would arrest him.
They always getting locked up.
Locked up a couple times,
and then he gets out. Not a cop show.
Hey, that's what I like. Root for the criminals.
And the sister switch sides.
Anyway, yeah, I'm back at the beauty salon. We was in here talking about some things, and I went back on some comments and read some comments too, Jared. And they said something about being novice hip hop.
Novice.
Shots fired. Shots.
So we ain't here talking about hip hop today, so let's get it.
I'm not gonna say.
Remix. Taking challenges.
All right. No need for that curling iron. Leave that over there. I'm good. All right, yo, check this out. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and you are tuned into the Remix Morning Show on Black Power Media. In case you don't know, now you do. Anyway, make sure y'all hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell. Go to patreon.com, become a member, drop some change in the bucket so we can make it keep on moving forward and make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We've been here over a year, y'all. We're trying to make sure we go over year to year to year to year. So let's keep this moving. All right, with that said, like I said, we back at the barbershop. We talking about, all right, so boom. I'm scrolling. You know, sometimes I'll be scrolling in these social media streets, and I seen this, let me say, I believe it was All Hip Hop. They put out a best top 50 women MCs joint, right? So, you know, I looked at it and I was like, come on, son. Y'all can't be serious. So check this list out right here. We starting off, we got Nicki, the top 50 greatest female rappers of all time. Nicki Minaj, Lil' Kim, Missy Elliott, Queen Latifah, Lauryn Hill, Lisa Left Eye, number 6. Oh, wow. Okay. So I seen that and I was like, all right. Well, it's different categories to this hip hop thing. So I thought about who are the most influential in the hip hop when it comes to the ladies. So I said, let me start off with no other than MC Lyte. MC Lyte, who was one of the greatest storytellers, one of the first females to get on the microphone and kill it like she did. I mean, really talking about storytelling and be able to have that street vibe and everything. MC Lyte all day, very influential. Next, we got to go to the Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah was one of the first to rap, sing, have house music on the album, have reggae on the album, could sing and rap. I mean, Queen Latifah, one of the big influences. And if it wasn't for no Queen, definitely wouldn't be no Lauryn Hill. When it comes to influential and being able to spit lyrics, talk about consciousness, talk about looking in the self. I mean, Lauryn all day. She was definitely influential, especially during the 90s. And we can't forget about Missy Elliott. Missy Elliott was very influential when it comes to younger rappers like Tierra Whack and different people, different MCs that's coming out on some, not just, you know, some wildness in their videos, spitting lyrics and just having a flow. Yes. And last but not least, I have to leave it to Little Kim. Little Kim, it would be no Cardi B's, it would be no Nicki Minaj's, it would be majority of the female rappers that's out right now because of the sexual liberation that Little Kim brought to the game. Now, that's all you seeing. So I would have to say Little Kim was the last biggest influence of the time. We waiting for the next. But those are my top 5 influential female MCs for the day. So that's what it is. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning Show. You know how we do.
Was that list?
That list
added that list.
I think I am.
It's trash.
If I didn't see it well. And first of all, I didn't see Bahamadia's name up there.
Well, you talking about the list at the all hip hop?
You better fix your face, Kamal.
Yo, Jerry, you talking about the list that the people made or I made?
Either list. I didn't see her on either one.
We said influential now.
Not in your household influential.
Oh my God.
You can't say Bahamadia did not influence hip hop. You cannot say that.
Who?
You cannot say Bahamadia did not influence hip hop. You cannot say that.
Like he listed top 5 what he thought was influential women rappers of all time. And you saying that Bahamadia is
Are you serious, Jerry?
You're right.
Maybe not top 5, but I said I didn't see her on that 50 list. There were people on that list of 50 or whatever that I didn't even never heard of before.
Who you telling? That list had 50 of all time. Now, I'll show you that list real quick one more time, and that was straight trash to me. I ain't gonna.
That people's list was a mess.
Now
I don't see Bahamadia up there. Who is Rock? I don't know Rocky Bad. I don't know
Fergie.
Fergie, get the hell out of here. Fergie bad just off of that.
Fergie was hot.
They got Rhapsody at 17.
Now Rod Digger. Now they got Rod Digger needs to be way higher up.
Yes.
Okay, they do have Bahamadia on this list.
Who is Mulatto?
45.
I don't know.
Who is Mulatto?
Oh, Mulatto. She's all right. She's a
Mulatto.
young one from an ATL.
God damn it!
They just randomly.
That is two up names. Somebody just threw up.
Somebody made the list. That's interesting.
That was the worst. They don't.
Wait, was your list in order?
Mine?
Was it in any order?
Mine. That's not my list. My list was
no. Your list. Yeah, was your list in any order? Your 5.
Nah. I just went down.
Did I take back my trash?
And what about Salt and Pepper? They didn't make any lists. What about either of the Roxannes? Are the Roxannes on these lists? They not influential?
Yeah, but not because they was first or anything. But I mean, influential. You had Herbie Lovebug writing all their lyrics, so no. They weren't influential as
hold up, but in time out then, because now, especially now that we know what we know and we've seen what we've seen, then Lauryn Hill has to be taken off the list because she did not give credit to any of the people. Hold up, she didn't give credit to the many people that created that album.
Produced. We talking about writing lyrics.
I don't know to what extent she wrote all her lyrics at this point. Go back and look at.
Ain't nobody writing Lauryn Hill lyrics. Come on.
I got to go back and look at that lawsuit. I don't remember all the details.
I think
always rap controversies.
I'll go back to Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. That list, I appreciate that you like my list.
Didn't Biggie write Lil Kim's rhymes?
All right.
Biggie wrote all Lil Kim's rhymes.
Not all of them, but yeah.
75% of them.
But she's on your list.
We talk about influential. Now, all these female MCs out right now
all over the place. When I mention somebody, you say they got lyrics written for them, and then when I say that your guy did this influential now.
That's what my list was. Influence. She got all these sisters out here talking about sex, getting money, fashion designs. That was Little Kim.
And you know what?
I think Lil Kim is top 5 influential. I agree.
I like that you described her work as sexual liberation. I give you mad kudos for that. I do. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And I'll leave on that.
See, I tried to give him an out. I tried to give him an out.
No, you did. No, I'm the one acting up. I was like, it's sexual liberation.
As always.
Some of it was.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think
Some
I'm
of it.
advanced enough on that issue. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Is that liberation? I don't know. Is it?
But the dudes, I mean, I think the counter argument is always that the dudes get away with that and much more, and nobody ever noticed.
Right.
It's
So they should be slowed up too. Like,
yeah.
And the older I get, I'm definitely getting more conservative. I want everybody to put their clothes on. I want everybody to. I want in public. Put your clothes on. Put your sex lives back into your houses. I don't want to hear nothing, see nothing on TV and movies, nothing. I don't care. I don't want it. I don't want any of it anymore. They should just fade to black. As soon as you see the people coming together, just fade to black and let's get back to the story.
And see, I want people to express themselves and be responsible. And when I know what it is, I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to watch it.
Right on.
I can go off and do what I do. I too am pretty, pretty what's the word I want to
conservative.
Conservative in that way. A little bit. Say what?
You?
Huh?
You?
Okay. That was in a particular context. Okay.
All right.
So now that I'm a widow lady, I have to.
No, now you're making adjustments. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for. I'm just looking at that.
Because he be like,
yeah,
girl.
I gotta go. My grandmother died. I don't know what y'all talking about.
Oh,
I think we got some news to talk about.
Yeah, let's slap a map. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Remix Morning Show here, Black Power Media. How do you all want to proceed? There's a whole bunch of stories. I don't know if any of you have something pressing you want to get to. I thought we could even read over some of the read over some of the headlines we missed from the last couple of days. But and again, shout out to Sister Erica for putting all those stories together for us. Yeah, what do you all think? How you want to proceed from here?
Not reading.
Well, I mean, it was the story to me that the Palestinian journalist who was killed, murdered, was something that I don't think we covered that I think needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I got you right here.
Okay.
Yep. We do have that story here. Shireen Abu Akleh, Al Jazeera reporter, killed by Israeli forces. Israeli forces shot Abu Akleh in the head while she was on assignment in Jenin in the occupied West Bank.
And as you put that up, what I like. Let me put up real quick the difference between that mixing. Sure, that's covered, and the New York Times version of it, which.
What terrorist reporter gets in the way of Israeli?
No, not they don't go that far because it's a journalist, so it's a little bit more benign, but on purposely benign, right? Al Jazeera journalist is killed in West Bank, not naming Israeli authorities as the perpetrators of the killing.
Oh, and look, Palestinian authorities blamed Israeli troops.
Yes,
so that therefore discredits the claim in their read.
And the next sentence, Israel said the blame could lie with the Palestinian gunmen.
That's right.
So despite even the information they had at hand during the time, when we look at the way the media tries to capture the killing of this journalist, unlike if it was a killing in Ukraine, let's say, of a journalist, where we know the immediate headline would be Russia kills Western journalists, or Russia kills journalists, snuffs out free speech and all the rest of it. Here, because their allies are the ones who are obviously perpetrating the occupation and the murder and the killings and the oppression, the New York Times soft pedals the headline once again, particularly when it comes to what happens in Palestine vis-a-vis the occupation by Israel of not only the West Bank and Gaza, but all of Palestinian land. So I just thought I just wanted to point that out in terms of
no, that's perfect.
Yeah,
because I think this is great that we can do this real time, because I'm coming back to the Al Jazeera story just to see again how they framed it. Just quickly, as Israeli forces have shot dead Al Jazeera journalist in the occupied, and again they call it the occupied West Bank, which I would guess is not at least highlighted in the New York Times article, if not mentioned at all. And then in the next graph, it says that she was killed while covering Israeli army raids in the city of Jenin in the northern occupied West Bank. So just that little bit of framing is, again, I don't know exactly what the New York Times goes on to say, but I hazard a guess that
through the New York Times story, there is a back and forth narrative of the Israeli forces and or Israeli talking heads countering and or just discussing, and then there's this one sentence or two sentences that will say Palestinian leaders think this, right? So it's that kind of careful propaganda narrative, not it's not like a right wing of terrorist reporter. The New York Times obviously is much more careful about that in terms of its coverage. What it does instead is to make sure that the occupier themselves lead the narrative, but they'll throw in a trace of what the other side says and says, look, we're being objective. Look, we're telling, we're trying to make sure both sides have told, because we just don't know exactly what happened, kind of thing. And so again, that kind of careful parsing is never done for stories in which they've already decided who the enemy is, when it's against U.S. interests, against what the State Department says is U.S. interest. And then we should say the reporter was known as somebody who would do deep dives into Israeli occupation, the toll of the occupation on Palestinians. She was known as an honest reporter, someone who was decidedly an activist reporter in some ways, making sure that the narrative of what was happening to Palestinians on the ground was covered. And so some people are speculating, not necessarily that it was a target hit, but that folks on the Israeli sides obviously shed no tears whatsoever about their murder of this particular reporter.
Yeah, and no outlet is reporting precisely how she was shot, which I think is important. She was covering a raid, which, if it's a raid, you have to ask yourself, why are they using live ammunition on a raid on someone's home in the first place? Why they run around shooting people, which is first question. And of course, it's the IDF. That's what they do. Then she had on a helmet and a journal and a flak jacket that had press on the front. So it's not just that she was shot in the head. She was shot particularly behind the ear. So that's not like a random stray bullet. That is the work of a sniper. That's not like an accidental kind of thing. So if she is covering a raid and she is the press, she's more than likely not in front of the army. She's more than likely behind them or on the side. So you've got the army, the IDF, pointing their weapons behind them. So there are all these basic questions or basic elements of her of the issues around her death that are not mentioned in any mainstream article that does point to this was an intentional murder that was committed by the Israeli Defense Force to silence this woman and to terrorize journalists to stop covering their crimes in Palestine. So
to your point, Jackie, this article in Al Jazeera does say that she was with a group of journalists, and that when she was shot, and that another journalist there was shot as well, at least wounded. And that they said that there were no confrontations between Palestinian fighters at the time, and that according to Shatia Hanashia, a local journalist who was standing next to Abu Akleh when she was shot, said that the group of journalists had been directly targeted.
And they all were wearing, as I think Jackie alluded to it, said they all were wearing press across their chests. They were completely distinguishable from anyone else on the scene in terms of what their role were, who they were, and obviously that part is left out too, or not highlighted as much in the New York Times story. In fact, the lead picture the New York Times uses is a picture of her sort of in a regular shirt. But again, I think it's been pointed out there was actually cameras, not only their own cameras, of course, but video cameras from various places showing clearly that these folks were identified and marked as media and press.
It says here also, all the witnesses present at the scene of the crime ensures that it was an Israeli sniper that committed the crime in a deliberate way. End quote.
Yeah, and Al Jazeera can get kind of iffy on some issues of imperialism, but they're usually pretty consistent on the Israeli occupation of Palestine. They're usually quite consistent.
Yeah, people are usually good at covering other people's
for
their own suffering or other people's occupations, or so the BBC I thought would be good at criticizing the United States, but horrible on talking about their colonies in Africa, stuff like that, or their former colonies, so it's like they all have their pockets of so all right on. Did either of you have something else you wanted to get to right away?
This abortion rights thing, or the SCOTUS, the impending ruling by the Supreme Court that is more than likely going to overturn Roe versus Wade. I find it interesting that the Senate was able to pass this bill that would provide security for members of the Supreme Court and their family members after people protested in front of the homes of Brett Kavanaugh and Chief Justice John Roberts and one other member of that, panel of 9 unelected men and women with life appointments who are deciding laws that affect all of our lives. It's interesting that and this bill passed unanimously. I mean, there was no hesitation for it. And these people are like, protesting in front of people's houses is just a bill too far. Two senators introduced the bill on Thursday after the Supreme Court decision, the draft decision that appears to indicate that the Supreme Court will overturn Roe versus Wade was leaked, and there were protests at folks' houses, and this whole thing about the protests sparked this conversation yet again in this country from politicos about the right way to protest and why you shouldn't be protesting in front of people's houses. Well, you should stay the hell out of my uterus. I'm just saying that you should. And if politicians and these Supreme Court justices can pass laws and make decisions that affect quite literally what people can and cannot do with their bodies, then their home address is not off limits. And I feel that way when it comes to this situation. I feel that way when it comes to us protecting ourselves from the racist police. I feel that way when it comes to us demanding affordable housing and healthcare and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand why there are not people pouring out into the streets demanding at all of these politicians' houses. Fuck Capitol Hill, go to their houses and ask them, demand that, you know what, we're not leaving until you stop giving Ukraine all our healthcare money and our student loan money. But but I feel like we have been bullied, and we are so, I think we have been really quite, I think people feel powerless in this country, and it's really a weird flex. Honestly, it is coming from Cuba, just 90 miles south of here, where when people are unhappy with something, they're just like, yeah, we don't like this. They have a structure from the neighborhood on right on up to the government to express their grievances. And we don't have that here. And it blows my mind that we are about to see in this country um, the right of women to just have control over our own bodies, regardless of how people personally feel about abortion. That's your shit. It really is. But what I do with my body is my business. It's nobody else's. But we're about to lose the right to bodily autonomy in this country. And even the people who are supposedly pro choice are not as like agitated as I feel like they should be. Or maybe they're not as many people as I think there should be. And I think it's very clear that politicians see that they have a population that is really not in for resisting them right now for a whole lot of reasons. So I feel like this particular Supreme Court decision is going to be the beginning of a lot of really horrible, fucked up things that are going to come down the pike politically. After this, I think the midterms are going to be a disaster. I think the Democrats are going to lose the House and the Senate. The next election, the next presidential election will be a Republican. And then all of us are going to be in a world of hurt. And I can't help but think, y'all always talking about we got to do something about these politicians, but y'all don't want to get organized. Y'all don't want to be in an organization with people to learn about these issues and to find out, you don't want to door knock. You don't want to be in study groups and do the hard work that it takes to confront these people. And some of it is unpleasant. There's a lady in Chevy Chase who started the protests against Kavanaugh and Roberts by herself. She lives in the neighborhood with them. And Chevy Chase is a very wealthy neighborhood in DC. And this woman has been protesting in front of these people's houses for months by herself most of the time. She's a white lady. Her neighbors most of them are like, oh, I think she's doing the right thing. And I don't like what they're doing, the Roberts and Kavanaugh are doing. I don't agree with them. But, I'm afraid for my job. I think this is the wrong thing to do. And this lady was like, fuck that. I'm going to stand out here in front of these people's houses with this candle and these signs, and I'm going to tell them about themselves. And she said in the Washington Post article, these people are about to pass a law that affects my right to what I do with my body. I don't owe that man any civility at all. That's the attitude, y'all. That is the attitude we have to have with these people. We need to. I'm very confused about what people are doing right now.
I think the other interesting thing for me is the article itself. So you said it was 100% of both the Democrats and the Republicans who voted for this. So the Democrats who control the Senate, right? They can't get together to make sure there's a bill, a legislation that's proposed to protect women's abortion rights or rights of choice. They can't get together to whip their members into shape to do something like that. But the moment that a power center feels, I wouldn't even say the word is threatened, but feels annoyed by the fact that someone may be trampling on their green gardens or their grass, they can put together a bill that passes. And again, nothing gets through the Senate without the Democrats deciding, because they control the Senate and the House.
That's right.
And the presidency. So they could whip their members into shape for some performative, let's protect the Supreme Court members. And they can do and apparently if it passes 100%, all the so-called progressives and everybody else can line up and get it done. But they can't stand together to protect a woman's right to choose. They can't stand together to do something to even add folks to, as the Supreme Court works, to add more members to the Supreme Court, to do anything that they can to fight for power. They can't do that. Instead, they protect the very same power that's stripping people of their rights, because that's who they're ultimately concerned about. They're ultimately concerned about being in the same federation as these other groups of power and not having people attack them for the decisions that they make, which impact people's day-to-day lives. That's what they're really concerned about.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I recognize that there are limits to protests. The point I am making is that there is this one woman who is, I mean, her job could be in jeopardy too. And this might be the only thing she is protesting. But it just blows my mind that the Senate, the Democrats and the Republicans can pass this kind of legislation. And nobody is out in the streets like, fuck y'all. Are y'all crazy? Nobody is holding these people to account. I mean, so I really probably am not expressing what I'm trying to say well enough because it's early in the morning and I'm still tired. But yo, man, this system is about to curtail every right we thought we had, to the point where it will be very clear that we're going to have to fight for our right to survive in this country. So I think that we really need to get used to the idea that we can no longer sit back and read stories like this in the news and say, oh, well, you know, the Democrats and the Republicans, well, you know, we can't do anything about them. Yes, we can. We can do something about them. We can make their lives just as miserable as they make ours. And that does mean some organized actions around where some of these people live, because doesn't what they do affect not only where we live, but how we live? It does. And not just in this issue with abortion rights, but everything else. So I really just feel like we need that organized mass movement. But first, we need people to be organized, which means people need to get into organizations. And we really need to see that happen now.
Yeah, I agree. There's not much more I would want to add. I just wanted, other than, you know, when I used to live in DC, one of I used to want to, I tried to advocate for this organization I worked with to do, I wanted to do like radical tours, both do radical tours and then bust up the conventional tours that people were taking when they would come to the city, like ride behind the open air buses and play, you know, speeches and be on the mic and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I really wanted to do is because I used to notice from time to time, if I just took a walk during weekday lunch down Pennsylvania Avenue or in that area from the White House down to Congress, there's a lot of restaurants, and you can see all of the people from both parties having lunches together, socializing together, glad handing, having their martinis together, all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, and I think seeing that, witnessing that live creates another response. It's another level of damn, they are really. So that's why we saw Nancy Pelosi just the other day saying, I think, or yesterday, saying she wishes that there was a stronger Republican Party that reflected the pro-choice ethic that it used to, or something to that effect, that was going to stand up against the rabid right wing that took over the party, whatever she was saying. But the point is, they want each other to be strong so they can play off of each other and prevent us from getting anywhere. So I think any number, to your point, Jackie, of radical interventions are necessary. I certainly support that. So,
and also let's remember that before we go on, you know, Joe Biden is also upset about the lunches. I guess he's upset that they're not happening anymore. So Joe lamented this a few days ago.
Even back in the old days when we had real segregationists like Eastland and Thurman and all those guys. But at least we end up eating lunch together.
Yeah.
Even back in the old days when we had
real
segregationists like Eastland and Thurman.
Back in the good old days, we used to have
Back in the good old days.
have
Back
lunch.
in the good old days.
Real segregationists.
Yeah, that's what he's
But
lamenting.
that's the point,
Yeah.
and that's the point, though.
Mhm.
I think that's perfect. And you
Mhm.
get and then if you ever actually just take a ride down there and just see them sitting in there, and you could see their faces like they're not enemies. They're not competing. It's a WWE type of performance. All of that. So anyway, do we have time for one more before we get to the ear doctor, or where are we at here?
Let's do it.
So I don't know. I'll just grab one of these from. Well, I know one story that I believe Erica definitely wants us to get to, because she made sure it showed up in both days. She was like, "Nah, you can't skip this one. You skipped it one day." She put it in the joint for the next day. She was like, "You better get out of here, skipping this story. You thought you was going to get this story. You better get out of here." And this one is. The headline is that BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors admits she lied when she denied using group's $6 million LA property only for official business. She reveals she hosted parties for Biden's inauguration and her son's birthday.
What to say? I mean,
yeah. I think I'm definitely more bothered by the Biden inauguration party than her son's birthday party. If she's having parties, if any of this is accurately, being reported, and this happened, I can't, anyway, that was,
again,
so that was it.
Yeah. And no shock. I mean, this goes exactly to the point Jackie was bringing up, as opposed to organizing. Like the organizers who've collected the most resources, who claim to represent the people in mass and who claim that we're winning, spending their time not only using the money that they collected to buy a property of this at this price, which does not. And again, we've talked about there's nothing wrong with property purchase, because that's a place where you can get work done out of, right? It's potentially supposed to be a place where you can create movement activities. But as opposed to buying something or spots up in the hood to make those places centers for movement, organizing, and activity, we're buying $6 million mansions to throw birthday parties for our kids, and to support or show our support for Jim Crow Joe, who can't do anything apparently to stop the Republican steamroller, and or who, as we talked about, really doesn't want to, because he agrees with most of those ideas, and he's willing to negotiate sort of like the left flank away, or any policy that's progressive away, because he really doesn't give a damn about that stuff. He just cares about the projection of being the most powerful person on earth and being the president again. That's what he cares about. And the fact that our organizers seem to care more about that also than we do about the real work of on the ground base building and mobilizations speaks to where we're at in terms of challenging not only the right wing, but the liberals and the moderates on how we get things done in terms of the work that we have to do. So,
yeah, and the
We've
fact
gone
that
from sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that $6 million could have paid a lot of people's rent, could have bailed a lot of folks. Well, when they were buying this house, there were Black Lives Matter chapter activists in who were locked up because they were protesting, because they were in the streets doing the work, who were homeless and doing the work, who needed support, who had medical bills. That $6 million could have helped a lot of people, but instead.
But see, this is the thing, though. But so, Jack, I'm sorry, but this is the thing, though, right? Because we've gone from an era where, at the time he was assassinated, Dr. King was advocating taking the rent money from poor people in the hood, and instead of it turning it over to the landlords, using it to fix up their communities as a way to heighten the contradiction. Here, these women, or that foundation, I should say, took money from other foundations and other nonprofits that I'm sure come with ties that limit what they can actually do with the money, that would put a purchase of this mansion within the purview of what is acceptable, I guess, or what is within the limits of what is acceptable, but would limit. And I'm bringing that up only to show the relationship of each to the actual struggle and the community is very different. So that's how we end up with this. So like, I don't think they could have done the things that you're talking about, even if they wanted to.
You know what? I'm gonna push back on that because I
don't think about
foundation money. No, only on foundation money. Obviously, they come with strings, but you can drive your actions towards what you're using that money for. And so, for me, it's the ideological question of where Dr. King was and where today's organizers are, even more impactful than what the foundations are telling them to do and or not do. Because I'm sure there was no foundation that said, take this money and buy a $6 million mansion, right? It was like that. That's not like that wasn't part of their agreement. But I agree but because a lot of the money can be used for general funds and other things when you get foundation money, there's ways to maneuver and say exactly as they probably had to justify for some of the foundations who didn't give for general funding. You're not sure what pool of money was particularly used, but this was for they'll probably say this in some report, for purposes of organizing, for artist retreat, for building retreat space for people to come and rest and to do self-care. There's all these buzzwords that folks are going to use to justify what they do in movement spaces. But I think ultimately is that the ideology of these folks is that, and again, I want to be careful because they did not invent the grift, right? They inherited the grift from, again, going back to Jesse. I always go back to Jesse and I just had a conversation with one person that was reminding me of the story of how Jesse, for 3 days after Dr. King's assassination, walked around with blood on his shirt doing interviews for 3 days, right? So the grift has always been around, obviously, but the level of resources available has now taken it to a certain level where I would say, for all of his, particularly like a Jesse, for all of his irrational money grabbing activities, he probably was more connected to real movement in some ways than some of us are today. But he didn't. But again, these folks didn't invent the grift. It's been around. Al Sharpton, even at that, we talked about this a few days ago, that real estate venture that he was trying to move forward undercover, which was a sort of a blockbusting real estate venture, which would do whatever's left of Black Harlem would totally be displaced because he was building like a huge commercial development center right there in the middle of Harlem. So the grift has been there, and it's whether they like it or not, these folks inhabit similar ideologies, again, of the very same people that a lot of us used to criticize in the 90s and stuff like that, of Al Sharpton's up to this and Al Sharpton's up to that. But the same ideological perspective of like, I got to get mine. And part of me doing good for Black people means I need to do good. That's really what it comes down to for a lot of folks. It's like, if I'm doing good, that means Black people are doing good. That's what they
Jay-Z said. How can I help the poor if I'm one of them? Like our leader, radical political leader, Jay-Z said. Anyway, speaking of appropriate radical leadership, taking us in the right direction, we have our audiologist back in the barbershop, leading us like the Pied Piper to freedom.
I don't think the Pied Piper is not a good thing. That's not,
I know.
That is a very horrible story.
I always think
You're
about.
right. My bad. You're right. The pressure of the segue. My bad. I forgot. I'm sorry.
I thought I was gonna say, did somebody say something about Jay-Z?
He's leading us with the Akabin war horn, not the Pied Piper. He's got the Akabin leading us to freedom with the Akabin on the turntable.
All right. So it is officially break time. I'm back in the barbershop. I had to come get this Sherman Hemsley taken care of pretty quick. Get ready for this weekend. You know what I mean? Yeah. You next in line, Jared. Word. So let's get to this break. Whatever, man. Still got his little hair, baby hairs. All right, let's get to it. Remix. All right. My man got the blue Nile Egyptian musk on deck. Let me get a bottle of that. Yes, thank you. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Remix Morning Show. We taking a quick break real quick. Let them go do what they got to do. With that said, we still on this hip hop. We still up here talking about stuff. But before I even get to that, make sure y'all tune in. Make sure y'all tune in this Sundays. This Sundays is going to be a heater. We're going to have my brother come through, DJ Mark Battle. That's right. And we are going to do a dance mix. So make sure y'all get your dancing shoes on. And if you want to learn a little bit more about me and my brother relationship that goes back to him getting me started DJing in front of crowds to the people. You know what I'm saying? I was making pause and mixtapes back in the day. But go check out this doctor's office interview right here. It was a dope interview, so go to the doctor's office and check out that interview. With that said, let me go ahead and get back to what I was talking about. Now, we was talking about top 50 hip-hop MCs, female hip-hop MCs. So with that said, I wanted to go to my top 5 lyrical spitters when it comes to the female MCs. All right, we talking about lyrics, spitting, writing your rhymes, all that. So I'm gonna start off with a sister we had here on the show, no other than Moo Fresh. No doubt, I got to put her on there because the sister spit some lyrics consciously. She can sing, she can do all that. So I had to put her on there, especially seeing that list didn't even have her on there, which makes it even more trash. Next, we're going to go to no other than the sister from Kakalaki, Rhapsody. That's right. Rhapsody is one of the best lyricists I've heard in a long time. And she is doing it for this generation like no others without having to take all her clothes off and this, that, and the third to get our attention. Them lyrics got my attention. Thank you, Rhapsody. Now, next, who are we going to go to as lyricist? Jean Grey. A lot of people don't know about Jean Grey, but this sister right here can spit some lyrics with some of the best MCs. She's done a lot with Talib Kweli and Pharoah Monch and a bunch of different people that's on that lyrical caliber. Next, we got to go to another sister we had here on the show, no other than Ciroc. That's right. You talking about somebody that got on the song and spit bar to bar with Black Thought, that got on songs and spit with J Electronica, all types of MCs that got some lyrics behind them and can really spit conscious and just go. Just spit like like a machine gun. Yes, we got to give it to Ciroc. And last but not least, Nicki and Minaj. That's right. This sister right here writes her rhymes. This sister right here can spit with some of the best like Lil Wayne, Jay-Z, Eminem on the song Monster. If you ain't heard that song right there, go ahead and listen to it, and you will see that this sister got the metaphors, all that. So, might not like the content, but the sister can spit. So with that said, those are my top female spitters. Now, let's get back to the remix show. You know how we do. All right.
Definitely Moo Fresh. Worlds apart. I think she's just worlds apart from everybody, regardless. Just period, full stop.
Yeah, nah, she's nice. She's definitely nice. She's on the list.
He said,
I know he said, I was surprised.
I didn't expect anything else from Jared. That's one of his favorite MCs right there. So
she really is, and this new album has put her there. That's what I'm saying. Like this is the album that I think really this is it.
And even though Lil Kim influenced people like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, Nicki Minaj can spit. If you want to go and really listen to her, she can spit. So I had to put her on there. I know people are like, she talk about whatever.
How come you don't give Foxy Brown no credit for like early, sexual liberation rappers?
I mean, because Lil Kim seen Lil Kim first.
Okay.
I mean, even though they came out at the same time, and you had Jay-Z and different people writing rhymes for Foxy Brown, and you had Biggie writing rhymes for Lil
But
Kim.
again, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand when that is an issue for you and when it's not.
Well, it was all chill.
That's why I'm saying influence a whole culture in the hip hop culture, as in to start spitting about what she spit about. Yeah, I gotta give it to her.
So just real quick, I'm reading this. I'm learning a lot about Nicki Minaj. I haven't paid attention to her, I have to admit. And I'm reading this book that came out recently. I don't know if anybody else has looked at it. I'm gonna have to get more into it. It's called By Black, How Black Women Transformed U.S. Pop Culture by Aria Halliday. It's a strong academic book. I don't think I agree with it, but it's a strongly written academic book about that just came out, and it talks about Nicki Minaj and her impact on pop culture, and how it's meant to reflect a positive impact on U.S. pop culture that she has had in the projection of Black women and the role that they have in attracting advertising dollars. And I just don't. It's not that I don't agree with the talent. It's not that I don't recognize the talent. But this idea that there has been some positive impact on the world as a result of her and other women like her intervention in pop culture, I don't see it.
I don't think I see that impact of Black women particularly in advertising that came from that genre of rappers. I don't make that connection. I don't see that.
I mean, hardships made to fly. I mean, Nicki hit the hip hop scene. She hit the pop scene harder than any of these other rappers. I mean, only other person I can think of a female rapper that did it like that was Missy Elliott hitting the pop scene like that. But yeah, I mean, as in being able to make a pop song like she's been doing and killing it, yeah.
So for instance, just real quick, just real quick, and I haven't fully, I'm not doing the book credit, and we're just doing this off the cuff real quick, but she writes here, previous chapters have focused on how Black women utilize their own lived experiences and knowledges to produce consumptive products. This chapter considers how Black women's embodied objectification still operates within a white supremacist capitalist structure that enacts dehumanization and labor exploitation through appropriation. I argue that while Black women embodied objectification works to shift stereotypical representations in popular culture to empower Black girls and other Black women to do the same, the memification of their bodies, creative projects, and relational connections continues to work against their aims. Centered in others' images and products, Black women serve as relational figures that connect otherwise benign ideas with a system of racialized representation. So I'm not entirely sure.
A whole bunch of words that said
a lot.
What?
You academics. Y'all can turn.
Well, first of all, I'm not on that level. I don't even put myself in that category. I am not. I don't write like that. And it's going to take me 5 more times to fully grasp, I think. And I got to read more carefully the book to fully understand what she's saying. It is a very nuanced argument to talk about the positive impact on pop culture and marshaling a positive impact on the marketplace in ways men had only been able to do previously. But she is clear. Again, it's a nuanced argument apparently that where she's acknowledging that there are limitations in a white supremacist capitalist structure. Anyway, like I said, there's a lot going on. That's why I said I don't think I agree.
Argument, but also an old argument of and again, the celebration of anything that breaks through and gets a larger audience that's Black, we hold up and put a whole lot of wrappings around it. So whether or not it's a Missy or Nicki or other folks, as soon as, and again, whether or not it's this time period, whether or not it's a Black woman, an LGBTQ person, in the past, whether or not they were just a Black male, whatever it is. But if you're somebody who's breaking through a certain pop culture zeitgeist, then you're part of that. we do a lot. We as a community do a lot to wrap that around advancement for us as a people. And so, I'm not mad at that necessarily. Someone obviously, whatever their talents take them, they want to do some stuff. That's a little sub box. But I only look at these things and get a little bit like, are we reading way too much? And again, I haven't read the book. I don't know what the book is suggesting, but it just seems to fit into that larger category of like, we take one small success for some individual, and then we bring it out to this larger success for us as a people, when it's like it's has very little to do with some advancement for us as a larger group, and more to do with, all right, somebody broke through the racist barrier, and somebody else in 10 years will also do it, and someone else in 10 years will also do it, but it doesn't necessarily spell advancement and or the type of accolades that we like to throw on people because they were able to impress whiter audiences, which is also what it comes down to.
Hey, let me give you one more real quick of what I highlighted. Just real quick. I know I'm throwing this way off and I apologize, but let me just, this is just real quick. She writes, by framing Minaj's embodied objectification and utilization of prominent white icons like Barbie and Cinderella, as well as how others have used her likeness to sell their own products or comment on U.S. political positioning, I question how and why certain representations of Black women, while oppositional and perhaps even revolutionary for us, continue to be used to serve particular imaginative purposes that demonize and dehumanize Black women writ large. So maybe I agree more. These are just things I highlighted in my first quick read of this one part of the book. So I might agree more than I realized, but it's in that moment of there is, as she says, have certain representations of Black women that are oppositional and revolutionary for us. And I don't know to what extent Nicki Minaj presents as oppositional or revolutionary ever. And I'm not sure how I feel. And again, I'm not the one to be judging this, but how I feel about her again, use of the Barbie and Cinderella concepts, the surgical reconstruction of her physical body. I don't know if that's liberating per se. I find that problematic. Again, maybe that's just an old, I'm not caught up to the times, but anyway, sometimes we're going to get into the book and come back, but I don't know. I mean, it's just, I'm just like,
I don't know about all that.
Natural, anyway.
I don't know about all that, but back to lyricism, like I was talking about, she's one of those. She's one of the best. I'm not talking about, because I don't agree with the Barbie, all that blase blah bull, but as in MCing hip hop lyricism, I'm giving her props. My chair is up, so I'm about to go get my hair cut, and I'm about to go look up zeitgeist. That's my first. I gotta go look that word up. Thank you, Kamal.
Right on.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, did you either of you have something you wanted to get back to in terms of an actual story? Although I can't wait. I got to get back into that book. I got to get more into that book. That cultural studies stuff, a lot of that stuff is difficult for me. I have to read it several times. But anyway, it's fascinating. We'll see. Reach out to her.
So anyway. So there is a story about the Department of Justice throwing more money at the cops to be cops, which is not ever good for us. The Hill reports the DOJ has announced $40 million to fund community policing. The funding allocates up to $10 million for crisis intervention, $15 million for de-escalation training, $8 million for accreditation efforts. According to the DOJ, another $5 million will go to projects known as COPS micro grants, which allows local agencies to offer creative ways to fight crime. That means more surveillance and technology, by the way, y'all. That means more technology that uses algorithms that are proven to misidentify Black folks, which allow local agencies to offer creative ways to fight crime, and up to $2 million will support training. This is so ridiculous. Related to tolerance, diversity, and anti-bias.
So they've just fully hijacked the phrase community policing then,
Yes.
right?
For years now. Yeah, for years now.
So, but what does exactly that mean when they say it?
Usually it means beat cops, walking the street, getting out your cars, interacting with people, developing quote unquote relationships, snitches. So that's supposed to be the different formulation from riding around in vehicles and just pulling out. You know what I mean? So it's never like they stop doing that, right? They still do that, but then they just add on this extra thrill of saying we need to get back to the times when cops walk the beat. So that's basically.
When I saw the headline, I thought cop watch programs in communities were about to get an upgrade. Get
about to get $40 million for us to watch them. Yeah.
Right. No, just more cops, more harassment, more drones, more facial recognition technology. That's what all that creative policing part, that's what that is. That it's facial recognition technology, it's drones, it's all those technological tools that we've been talking about on By Any Means Necessary for 2 years, that police departments across the country have been using and have been proven to be seriously flawed. And some municipalities have been successful in getting some of these technologies removed from the use of their police departments. But the cops keep trying. And now the Department of Justice is just like, we'll make it easy for you. We'll just give you some money we'll go all in on this technology for you.
Yeah. And as we've talked about, the end goal is always to have that wraparound surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
So, here in Atlanta, private industry and the police department have teamed up to hook up all the public cameras to a central database for them to be able to watch, and even private cameras with the companies that have the door ringers, where all of that information goes back to the police for them to have access to all of that information on everything that you do once you step outside your door. And obviously, we know the higher agencies also have ways to get information on what you do inside your door. So this is a wraparound surveillance technique. And it doesn't just end with the sophistication of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
What they've been doing for years, they have but you remember PAL, Police Athletic Leagues. They have different versions of that these days. Also, like in the neighborhood we work in Atlanta, Pittsburgh, is called the Promise Center, where they develop these youth community centers, and they have the money, they have the technology, they have the computers, they have the money to build the basketball courts. And who gets to volunteer and run those things? People who are police and or associated with police. So they get to do a couple of more things. They get to surveil the community, surveil youth, get names, get directions, but also they get to claim that they're doing diversionary work. So what happens if it's some kid, instead of going to jail, he gets to go into this diversionary program and gets to come around the cops. And then they sell that to the larger public as, isn't this fantastic? We are now helping young people not go to jail. And so they are the centerpiece of supposed crime prevention in our community, supposed alternatives to incarceration. They center themselves in all activities in our community so that they become the group with the most money and put themselves as being indisposable to us in terms of any advancement. And then lastly here, and again, this is happening across the country, is then the cities themselves develop cop housing, right? So they have the police housing that they get tax breaks for, lower interest rates, down payment assistance programs, where they start to move them into communities, particularly that are targeted for gentrification. So here in Atlanta, they're developing 3 to 5 houses off the top, where they are now buying houses for these cops so they can live in these communities, which again are targeted for gentrification. So these are wraparound programs, and the DOJ to the local police to the counties and the sheriff's offices. These are wraparound programs that are all about surveillance and control of our community, from the most highly technological stuff that they do to the on the street, quote unquote, community policing activity, which is about surveillance, control, and brutality.
Yeah, and let's not forget that the DOJ is doing this on top of the programs and the money that they've already poured into these federal national police programs like Operation Relentless Pursuit, and just the 1033 program that already exists that we keep talking about, because just because it's not a broadcast in the media, it doesn't mean that you're not seeing the effects of the federal policies toward policing in your neighborhood, on your street. You absolutely are. Anytime I can drive down 295 or 395 here in PG County and literally see a military grade tank emblazoned with the PG County Police, that came straight from the Department of Defense. Who in the world is PG County cops using that on? There's not a battleground here in, close to me in PG County. They're using it on regular folks like you and me. So these federal programs that the DOJ and all of these federal pieces of legislation are throwing all of this money at, they're giving that money to the local police departments, and then they're turning around telling you, oh, we trust you, we want to partner with you to develop community policing programs. But what they're doing is exactly what Kamau said. They're creating this federal dragnet of policing by giving cops, and I really do think the cop city thing is wild, because they can give cops all of the benefits of affordable housing and housing assistance that they would never give you and me, that they claim that they can't afford, right? So all of this stuff is so very connected to the state of policing, the fact that we do live in a police state in this country, and where the priorities of this country and all of the politicians in this country, from the federal level right down to the local level, where their priorities lie. It's not with us.
Yeah, I mean, real quick too. I mean, you mentioned the Cop City. We just did a protest the other day, and tying in the corporate connections to it, right? So we talked about the door ring thing, but here in Atlanta, when they're building a Cop City, most of that money is coming from large corporations, the same corporations who 2 years ago claimed to care about Black Lives Matter and put out all these statements. So in particular, we've been targeting AT&T because of their connection to giving money for basically this training ground for police activities, where they're going to deforest a large part of land in order to build the largest police academy, where they train for urban warfare techniques, where they'll have housing, where they train around using explosives and so forth and so on. All of that is happening, and it's all being done currently, right, with privatized money. So we have this point where this public agency supposedly is getting new land and property for the continuation of its mission, mostly from private funding. Although the land that is being given on was donated basically for $1 or $10 a year from the city of Atlanta. So the ties, the interweaving of the private corporations and the police and the politicians, again, always has been there, but the sophistication of it gets stronger every year.
Yeah, and I think this is why those of us who advocate for community control of not just the police, but every damn institution in our communities do that, because we can't. This government, this system does not exist to provide us the services that will provide the kind of life that we deserve. So we have to control our communities, and not just the police, but healthcare. We have to control education. We have to control all housing, all of that. We have to begin, and it's unfortunate that I think we're saying we have to begin, but I do think we have to begin to see the need for community control of our communities, because we're not going to get the kind of communities that we need from the institutions that we unfortunately pay taxes to.
Yeah.
And honestly,
it's so interesting to me because there's in some ways we've come when we think about, we talked about Sundiata the other day, Sundiata Kohli, who's going to be released as a political prisoner hopefully very soon. But again, the alternative narrative that was pushed in the 60s and 70s, right, was making so much headway in terms of labeling cops as pigs and the characterization, and the sort of, and taking them out of a sense of being authority over us, and making fun of them, having alternative information and propaganda that talked about what their role was in a community. Really, it was resonating with people, and I still one of the chief considerations as to why the Panthers and other like organizations were destroyed, because they were making headway with people not respecting the authority of the police. And they've spent all of this time resurrecting. And again, we talked earlier about propaganda and these police shows and movies. They've spent all of this time, again, both private and public forces, recommitting, doubling down, tripling down on the narrative that the police are always the good guys and the saviors. And of course, again, the bad apples, which means that they can be rooted out, that the institution itself is a well-working machine that needs to be respected for the work that it does, but they can root out the bad apples and keep it going. All of that has come back on us. And again, even through this uprising, where again, there was some pushbacks over the last 6 to 7 years, doing different terms of the uprisings and the alternatives to policing, and talking about defunding, no matter what people, they're abolishing the police. Even during this time where there was some of that pushback did start to get through, we know that the state has worked diligently to make sure that it grabs back the narrative, and it grabs back that narrative of the police are being put upon. Look how sad it is, the way they've been treated over the last few years. They need more money in their budgets, more money in their budgets, more money in their budgets. Crime is going up, so forth and so on. So it continues to be a fight. We're just so low back on it. Yeah.
And I know we're about to get to a break, so I'm not going to belabor the point now, but I'm definitely going to be bringing up, for those who get mad at the discussion of pop culture, beware, because the propaganda at the most elite level is getting a new shot coming out at the end of this month. I saw the previews already, and some of the reviews are out already for Top Gun 2, baby.
Oh, God.
I'm telling you, boy.
Oh, no.
I'm telling you, boy. Top Gun 1 got me in the Navy, buddy. I can't wait to see number 2. Actually, that was the joke. When I showed up on my ship, that was the joke, that I was a Top Gun recruit. They were like, some of the old heads were like, "Oh, nigga, you here because you saw Top Gun, motherfucker. That's get your fucking punk ass." Anyway, but the propaganda and the previews already out to saying it's perfectly made, perfect action. Tom Cruise is taking stunt creation to a new level. It's more emotional than they expected. Yeah, buddy. It's gonna be some flag waving and bomb dropping and terrorists killing. It's gonna be hot, son. It's gonna be hot. And then the trickle down is that, as like Malcolm said, the police do locally what they do internationally, militarily. So the trickle down is, hey, it might be, like you said, 1 or 2 bad ones, but the institution itself is beautiful. And look at all these new toys we got, boy. We're going to kill these motherfuckers. You're going to get all these. And anyway, it's going to be perfect. So everybody thinking that they want to be like Jalil Muttaqin said about his trial. You want to call yourself a prisoner of war, we're going to treat you like one. You want to act like you were in a war, you in a war. That's it. Anyway, so it's going to be beautiful. But speaking of the proper propaganda, as the party might have also used to say, we got our resident audiologist back in effect, still in the barbershop, getting that shape. I'm taking longer than expected, huh?
Man, you know how they be like, yeah, one more. Then somebody came and paid extra money. Was like, yo, I gotta come in. Gave him a 100. So I'm like,
You know you sitting, son. Yeah, you know you
And some of these folks like to
Too rich
talk
for
too.
your
They get
blood.
these long stories. They get into these in-depth personal stories. Like, son, cut his hair. Let's move on.
Too much. You didn't play the basketball game last night. You're not I don't want to hear all that. But yeah, I'm still here, and we still talking about the sisters in hip hop. So let's get to it real quick. We got one more category. This might make some people mad.
Uh-oh.
Oh Lord.
We've been doing pretty good so far.
Hey.
Remix.
All right. Welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show, the Remix Morning Break, and I am the Ear Doctor. And right now, I wanted to talk about the sisters of hip hop that made it popular, that some of the foundation sisters that made this hip hop popular. So, who will I start off with? First, we got to start off with the Sequence. That's right, one of the first hip hop female groups that came out with I'm Gonna Funk You Right On Up. I'm Gonna Funk You Right On Up. That's right. They were one of the first to do it. Next, let's take it to no other than. That's right. Ciroc. You see her right there. Funky 4+1. That's right. One of the sisters that first came out as a solo MC, even though she was in a group. But if we're going to talk about first solo MCs, we got to talk about no other than Roxanne Chante. That's right, Roxanne Chante, who was a freestyler, came out right 14, 15, punishing other MCs when it came to battle rapping, which is one of the foundations of hip hop. When you're talking about hip hop, that's right, it's about that battle. Who was the best? And this sister did it like no other. And then we talk about groups. We can't go any farther without talking about no other than Salt and Pepper. That's right. Salt and Pepper came and laid it down for the pop generation and brought hip hop to a whole new level when it came to that, especially after the whole reign of Run DMC, Houdini, and Fat Boys and all them. It was time for the sisters, and they came through and did their thing. Now, we talking about how hip hop became popular. Can we talk about this sister right here? Debbie Harry. That's right. I brought her in here. That's right, because she got down with Fab Five Freddy and made that one song that brought the crossover to be like, oh, that's what rapping is. That's right. She did it in that song with Fab Five Freddy. Yeah, he's our man. And can we also talk about this sister right here? And when I say sister, I'm talking about ladies, y'all. That's right. Square Biz. Tina Marie. She came with that joint right there and on that Square Biz and spit them lyrics. And you know Rick James was sitting back like, man, I'm proud of this girl right here. So that's right. Pop, hip hop. That's what they did. And that is my 2 minutes or 3 minutes of hip hop history. Now let's get back to the crew. You know how we do.
Have you lost your motherfucking mind?
What the entire fuck did you do putting that what the
I like Blondie, not as anything to do with hip hop.
That woman didn't put hip hop on the map.
On the map?
Nothing.
Popularized
Look at
it.
you. You already pulling
She
at your
didn't
collar.
popularize shit.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
That weak ass.
And what does Tina Marie have to do with hip hop?
I have no idea.
Where is that
She
rhyme?
did one little
what
2-second
happened?
rap.
You were doing so well.
The rhyme she spit on Square Biz, or was it
That
hip hop?
didn't-
A moment of
That
silence.
didn't translate to hip hop, to rap or hip hop. Just
Again, you left out. If you're going to talk about, you already mentioned some of the ones exactly. You already mentioned some of the ones that I mean. You didn't mention Queen Latifah.
We did that.
No, I'm talking about for this segment. She should have been here in this one for helping popularize it. Moni Love. I mean, she helped popularize it, and she
way more than Debbie Damn Harry did.
That was the late 80s. We talking 70s and early 80s.
The only reason you give Debbie Harry because white people again, she introduced some kind of hip hop to some white downtown audience who didn't hear it before.
That's what popularizing is.
What, when white folks get to hear it?
Ain't that
That's what popularizing means?
Hey, ain't that what we was talking about Nicki Minaj? You talking about pop, that crossover?
Well, then you should have had Sylvia Robinson in there. I mean, she co-opted it from the jump. I mean, that was the
Tina Marie. In fact, I mean,
so Tina Marie gets credit for rapping.
Are you gonna call what Debbie Harry did rapping?
I'm so very exasperated.
Doing
right
a
now.
nursery rhyme. A nursery rhyme? You're going to equate?
Hey, y'all better go back and listen to Square Biz and see how she spit them lyrics.
I love Square Biz. It's great, but that's one tiny section of a whole song.
I don't even remember that.
She does a little. I mean, she does outfit something, Lady.
I don't remember the rhyme.
Who does? Who does?
It's a dope rhyme, but it's
a nursery rhyme
of a longer song. It's not even a whole.
It's a nursery rhyme. My head is exploding right now. It's a nursery rhyme.
Anyway, there's more women that I'm just I can't be expected to remember everything off the
from 70s to early 80s. Those were the women, and I'm out.
Not Debbie Harry. No, it wasn't.
Never allowed to do any more hip hop.
It wasn't Debbie Harry. No, it wasn't.
He's not allowed to do hip hop again, ever.
Oh my God.
Ever.
Anyway, let me share. Since Erica, let me let Erica help us save us from afar from since we went all the way off the deep edge, because I actually thought this story is much more serious and interesting. I don't know if it's any more accurate. I don't know any of the details about what's being said about this the assassination of Jovenel Moise, but ex-senator has been charged with being part of the conspiracy. A Haitian former senator has become the third suspect to be charged in the U.S. connection with the murder of Haiti's president, Jovenel Moise. Mr. Moise was killed in July by gunmen who stormed his home in Port-au-Prince. Ex-Senator John Joel Joseph has been charged with conspiring to commit murder or kidnapping and of providing material support resulting in Mr. Moise's death. So I don't know if either of you have been following this or anyone in the chat, and I have, has been following this more carefully. But how is this being described as a U.S. connection? Is it because he was living here? But so I was a little bit confused when I just read that. But he was arrested in Jamaica and extradited to the U.S. last week. I'm not. Maybe I just need to keep reading, or if any of you know anything about it. But anyway, I just thought that this story was important to at least catch up on or continue following. So,
yeah, I find it interesting that the U.S. Is even interested.
I'm sorry, Jackie. I'm sorry. Just real quick. The U.S. Department of Justice argues it is jurisdiction in the case because it says some of the alleged co-conspirators met in Miami to plot the murder. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
And still, I'm interested in why the U.S. Department of Justice is interested in this case, because when has the United States government ever wanted to prosecute the murderers of another country's leader? When has that ever happened? I've never. I'm real.
How many of those murders were plotted in Miami? I guess would be their response.
Well, I think that's kind of the key. It's like, oh, shit, you weren't supposed to do that in Miami.
They failed though.
Murder like 400 times in Miami. So.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
but they failed, so there was no prosecution needed. Yeah.
We gotta get rid of y'all. Y'all weren't supposed to have that meeting in Miami. Damn it. I am curious as to the U.S. government's interest in prosecuting or seeking jurisdiction.
So is Colombia and Haiti involved? Since it says that 26 Colombians and 2 Haitian Americans entered the president's home and shot him. So I guess it's Haitian Americans that has the U.S. involved.
I don't. That's not. I'm still.
Anyway,
it's a very complex situation, and I think that it's certainly not something that I'm as knowledgeable on as I should be. But one, it's not. I don't think it's a surprise that that people from other countries that are friendly with the U.S. government, meaning the Colombians, because remember, Colombia is a right-wing government that is an ally of the United States. So it's not a surprise that people from a government that is allied with the United States was involved. And it's not a surprise that Haitian Americans are involved, and now the United States is like, oh, we've got to get involved and clean this up, because I think there's probably some more information that they don't want to get out. So that's how it looks to me.
Shady McGrady.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say quickly, and as this all is happening, there's still been, over the last several months, massive protests in Haiti around labor conditions. There's still protests, obviously, involving the electoral system and the corruption and the attempts to pass new constitutional amendments to give more power to certain offices. And so that stuff is still happening on the ground as we speak. And there are different parties vying for leadership, and some of these parties are not, most of these parties are not necessarily talking about any major reform. So it's still going to take a movement on the ground in Haiti to make anything real happen. And so it's good to, in one sense, that some of the large mass demonstrations that have been happening in Haiti, when you look comparatively speaking at some of these demonstrations, particularly considering the percentage of the population that's out there organizing or doing that in mass under the most heinous of conditions of not only the political instability, but the gang warfare, the actual gang warfare, the possibility of getting grabbed off the street, women being raped and taken, kidnappings happening. This stuff is live and in person to a level which the political establishment played a large role in making happen anyway, as an interior extrajudicial military force that now they cannot themselves control. But again, may still provide the basis in terms of some of the political leadership of calling in the United States Marines and or the United Nations back in Haiti, claiming that the country's out of control and needs some sort of international stabilization force. So all of that intrigue on the ground is still happening, that's surrounding the assassination of Mosi a few months ago, or even a year ago at this stage. And so it's something that we need to watch and have another section where we have like an expert on to talk about the issues.
Now, just real quick, before we get out of here and start having to close up, I got to get this in because I want to again shout out. I think this is one of the stories that Ricky sent me, and a number of people actually ended up sending me, which I always think again is funny that when disparate sources all send me the same thing because they're like, oh, he's the crypto guy, and if I was petty, I would absolutely say I told you. But because I'm more concerned, and in fact, this is true. I'm more concerned with the people, but I am petty enough to put that in there.
I was about to say
reality. No, I am petty enough to put it in there, but the reality is that part of what I was predicting is that Bitcoin is not going to help people in El Salvador.
You don't say.
Yeah, exactly. Not that I, again, if I took that genius step out there on the limb, to predict that this would not help. But the short of it is that El Salvador is expected to default as Bitcoin plummets. The Central American country made the cryptocurrency legal tender last year, but since then it has continued to fall, raising concerns about whether it will be able to meet its next debt payment. The Salvadoran experiment to make Bitcoin legal currency has hit a wall as a result of the fall in global markets caused by uncertainty of the war in Ukraine, rising inflation and the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision to raise interest rates, the price of the most popular cryptocurrency in the world has plummeted more than 50% from its all-time highs. And with that, so too have the bonds of the government of El Salvador, which are trading at 40% of their original value as investors start to doubt whether the country can meet the next debt payment. Now, I read this one and a couple of other articles very quickly. I'm definitely going to get more into it, but the short of it is, because one of the things I wanted to look at is why, because they said that even though all this is happening, the president Bukele, how was I asking you to say this, Jackie, before we got how do you say his name?
That's how I pronounce it. It's probably
Bukele,
wrong, but Bukele.
Anyway, like he's trying, but I was wondering, because he has doubled down and said he's, quote, doing what all the crypto enthusiasts say when it drops there. He's buying the dip and is saying we're going to hold our, we're not giving up our. And I wanted to know what is his. So I haven't found everything yet, but in terms of who or what entities is he connected to that are encouraging that he stay invested in this plummeting useless asset, and part of it is apparently part of what he's trying to do is be seen as the hip, cool conservative who is trying to cover all of his draconian totalitarian policies that he's enacted since taking president, with this sort of, I'm the hip, young, cool guy that's going to bring you Bitcoin and a whole bunch of surveillance and police raids and all this other kind of stuff. And yet all the other than, a handful of young upper middle class, the affluent young upper middle class, nobody in the country has been using Bitcoin, because obviously nobody has money to buy Bitcoin to then use Bitcoin to trade, and even though it's been accepted as a currency there. So anyway, I'm definitely going to keep looking into this, and I appreciate Ricky and others for sending me this stuff, but there's more. Anyway, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, and it's not working. And the Central African Republic is doing it. Panama is doing it, and apparently now, although I'll see firsthand very soon about that last example, how that's not working. I'm gonna be down there, and I'll we'll see firsthand how that doesn't make a damn difference, because again, it doesn't satisfy the redistribution piece. This idea that because you can now use a different currency means you have access to it or you can afford it is a totally other thing. So then, other than boosting the value for those who already have invested in it because of the increased transaction rates, the increased participation on low levels of buying the asset or other portions of other people's owned asset, it doesn't do anything. So
all these are new investment tools. They're new markets. They're new commodities. They're new ways for people to sell things. And so that means they're going to be subject to conditions of a capitalist market. And so when there seems to be instability in the world, things are going to go down, and maybe they may recover to some degree. But that doesn't mean that, they're going to do anything redistributive or anything that's going to mean more resources for the people, because it just means you're taking money from what you were going to invest in the standard market, right? That instead of that, you're investing it in some other market, which you hope will do something else. So putting, like, I think as you've talked about before, putting cool language around this commodity. It's, in some ways it's the idea of like gold, right? All gold is some rock in the ground that someone has subscribed value to, and they've marketed it and they've put some prices to it, and they've told us it has this value because of its weight or its density or because it's a nice shiny color. So all we're doing now is replacing or bringing in more tools for folks to say, oh my God, isn't this great to have? Or isn't this something that we should have value? And so again, it's the incredible ability of propaganda to make reality, of people to take the concept in their mind, and with the right amount of propaganda, the right amount of celebrity endorsements, whether or not that's hip hop or bad actors or whatever, that begins to make this in people's mind be a real thing. And in some ways a dangerous thing, because they overvalue it's, and I don't mean that in terms of the monetary value, but they overvalue / sell to us what these things are going to do for us as a people or a community and or the rest of it.
Yeah, and selling the idea, it blows my mind when I still talk to people who are like, but cryptocurrency is revolutionary, and they base their argument on the fact that they got in early enough and they're able to afford their rent in a now gentrified area of whatever city they live in. And it's like you, but how is that? And to your point, Jared, first of all, you're benefiting because you got in early enough to benefit. Second, where's the redistributive aspect of it? How you that little bit of extra money is helping you pay your rent. What's that doing for other people to help them do anything with that? And third, so if people don't have money to, extra money to buy into this investment scheme, well, how is this revolutionary? And it's like people continually cannot answer these questions, but they keep arguing that cryptocurrency is revolutionary, and at some point there's just no engaging with the disingenuous arguments that these people make anymore.
So Jackie, I used on my show a little while ago one of your recent interviews with Dr. Tauheed about this, which was excellent to hear an actual economist explain the Ponzi nature of all of this.
That man said it's a Ponzi scheme, and I was like, I was not ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, he was just like, let me just break it down. Like, let me use all my highfalutin language of an economist. It's some bullshit. Like, let's just start with that, Yep. But to have him really, but so two things real quick that I want to encourage you and anyone else. I just found this video from CoffeeZilla's channel, which I encourage everybody to check out. Where he did a year ago, he interviewed this brother who was an influencer, a crypto influencer, and they had this conversation. And in this conversation, the brother unfortunately doesn't. It was unfortunate to see him kind of playing himself, even as he was hustling everybody. But he was But he was saying, he says it's all a Ponzi scheme. And he says, but he was describing it as a positive, to your point, Kamal, because because he was getting in on all of these schemes as an influencer as they were going up. So CoffeeZilla is like, so he was like, it's not a scam until the rug is pulled and all the money is taken out and everybody's left holding the bag. And CoffeeZilla says, yeah, but no, that's just when the scam occurs. It's a scam from the jump. You're just saying it's not a scam because you're in on it up to the point where the rug is pulled. So you walk out with the money, and the dude was like, well, but I mean, and it's like, and then this other thing I'm looking at for this other project that I'm working on, this historical comparison between the celebrities that were pushing the .coms 20 years ago and the celebrities influencing crypto today, and it's the same exact pattern. Very well paid influencers front these unsupportable, unsustainable operations. And then just as was happening, because again, they keep saying this is today's internet. If you're getting in on the internet, 20 years, but just then just as now it was then, there was just as much hustling and room for people to be pulled in, and with claims that the internet is going to solve all of our inequality problems. It's the new place to invest and create a new business, put it online and you'll be rich, And it doesn't work out that way because capitalism is still at play. White supremacy is still in effect in a new digital space. So anyway, it's and people are still brought in to believe that this is the solution to the impact of celebrity. Jackie's work is calling.
That's right. That's my job.
It's
my job calling, telling me, come on in here and do this work, doggone it. Do we pay you to do?
The voice, tell the voice.
That's the voice. I thought that was the voice. That was the voice.
No,
I thought I heard. That wasn't him?
No, he's on leave this week, so it's just me.
Okay.
Yeah,
just us.
Oh, goodbye, Kamal.
I was going to, Jared, to your point, because I bring it back to the propaganda model at hand. Take care, Jackie.
Peace,
that even when we look at the housing crisis and the way that these new tools were used to try to discuss how we are going to get rich, and obviously, the housing has been around for a long time, which is not as speculative as some of these other things in terms of the commodities, but still operate in a lot of the same ways. Where when we talk about gentrification and displacement, they place, for a long time, these communities, these poor communities, urban communities, our communities have no value. They're not worth investing in. Leave them alone. Don't go past such and such and such block. Don't you dare be seen in there. And then in a moment's eye, once the marketers, the real estate agents, the city, the developers to start to decide we can do something with that land. The moment that happens, a new propaganda system comes up or comes into play, which starts renaming neighborhoods, starts talking about it's an up and coming neighborhood. There's more police flooding. So they get to choose, like, you know what I mean? Like it's different pockets of elites, but they get to basically choose what is valued, when it's valued, and then when that value gets to be taken away in a lot of ways, or how do you sustain that value until it's time to move on to something else. And so, it's a common refrain.
Again, man, they even did that to me out here, to my old neighborhood out here. They renamed it Sierra Woods. You know what I mean? It's just, it sounds so, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you little sneaky motherfucker, anyway, yeah, for sure. No, but the messaging, I mean, look, to their point, it's well studied. They put in a lot of effort into this, and it's very clear the messaging works. A lot of us as individuals claim we're not affected by it, but that, I think, is part of the effectiveness of the messaging. That's the beauty of this system, is that it is high functioning, even beyond our ability to realize that. Like, one of my favorite white men, Marshall McLuhan, said, we are the fish who definitely did not discover water, because our environment, our all pervasive environment, is always beyond perception. That's so. Anyway, man, shout out to you and all the other remixes. Ear Doctor, we got you one more time coming back up as we wrap up this great week of the remix.
For all your hip hop needs, come right here to the Remix Morning Show. We got the knowledge for you. We got it. And I also wanted to let y'all know, check out 2:30 today. We got Ryan Starter TV gonna get on that whole topic of the Rico, talking about Young Thug, Gunna, and that whole situation. So tune in for that. In the morning, we got some more I Mix What I Like at 8 a.m. What you talking about, Jared?
We're getting into my emancipation don't fit your equation. Black education in America with Dr. Brian Lazinski. Geechee Yaw and Brother Diallo will be joining me as well to get into all of that and more. So definitely come through and check that out as well. And then I think we also got another Luke Mon Nation coming back Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. She's going to be getting more into the trip to Cuba. So definitely check that out. Warrior class Saturday. And then something happened Sunday night, but don't nobody care about that. Don't nobody care about that.
That's all right.
Not if he's going to have on Blondie.
Oh, DJ Battle's going to be there. So definitely now we can come through.
Wow.
Now we can.
All right.
I'm just playing. I hate missing. I try not to miss any Sundays. I've been absent these last couple, man. It's been tough catching them live for me, but I definitely want to get back. So I'm try to be in the building Sunday night.
Listen, in all those remixes in the comment section, if y'all want to come on and teach me about hip hop, I'm here. I'm here.
That's right, Kim Brown, 7:00, burning it down. Thank you, Quaker Anarchists. And shout out to the Quaker Anarchists and Sugar Booger, again, some of our most loud social media reps in these streets.
No doubt.
Big shout out to them.
Keep sharing, y'all. Sharing is caring.
We out. We out. Peace.
Yes, indeed.